Why you guys haven't investigated it, and how is that possible when the guy's not in the portal? How's that? Now, if that was one of my players, you guys would be all over it. I'm trying to figure out how can somebody say you got a $5 million offer? How? And the kid is not in the portal. So I think we need to be upright and upstanding. Secondly,
it's cool when they do it, but it's a problem when I do it. Woo! Hey, if you were wondering if Coach Prime is back, I think it's been answered, because Coach Prime is back, dropping some bombs. We love it. We talk about all things Big 12 media today. We only have this video just talking about how he approached the NIL, how he thinks it's impacting the Big 12 and all of college football. A lot of great stuff, a lot of great points that we're going to go over, and then we're going to break down his feelings, his thoughts, his opinions of this team. Feels like it's really good. And I'm not giving you everything. We're going to talk about it a little bit later on in another video, so be sure to smash the video, subscribe, all the good stuff. But we got to roll the intro, and then we'll dive into it. Come on. So $5 million offer. Look, this is kind of what it started with, right? In his presser, in his individual presser, he was just asked about his feelings, he thought of college football. I love too, because that's his feelings about Jerry Maguire, or Coach Maguire with Texas Tech, and how things are going there. He goes, look, I love Coach Maguire. He goes, Maguire got some money, because they have been spending that dollar. We know Texas Tech. We talked about them landing Felix Ocho for $5.1 million. It's rumored or reported, or however you want to look at it, to be described as they'll be spending $55 million. And I saw this question somewhere. It's like, how could they spend 55 if the salary cap is only X, right? Well, the salary cap is what half of it is. That's what the schools will be providing. But outside boosters are still able to get involved. Outside boosters are still able to sign NIL contracts. That's why the Rev Show era, all it did was just provide more money to this machine. It didn't really necessarily eliminate anybody. It just provided more to it. So I think it's a step to where things can get more organized, but as of now, it's just putting more on top of it. And so that's where that conversation started. I love it. It was like, I wish we could get some of that money from Jerry, so we get some of or from Maguire, so we can get some of those players ourselves. But then he talked about it, and again, we know what the issue with Isaiah Gustav, who was tampered with to go to, I think it was Virginia Tech, and that ultimately fell through, unfortunately. But again, he's talking about how these guys are getting offers and they're not even in the transfer portal. He's like, how is this happening? Like, our job is hard enough as it is for these coaches. Nowadays, this thing is 365. It does not stop. By the time, right now, look, think about it. It's already started now, but it's already been going for 2 weeks. Let's just kind of, for when we see them on TV. So this entire week, they're busy. When they get back, practice will start. Then, of course, the season's here. The season runs through the beginning of December. Now, if you're in a playoff game or a bowl game, it goes all the way through to December. But in the middle of December, you've got recruiting signing day, national signing day in the beginning of it. Then the portal opens. That goes in through January, right? Then you have a month of dead period, essentially. But more than likely, what you're doing is you're facilitating new coaches. You're doing interviews, replacing coaches during that time. Then you have a nice little recruiting stint from March to April. Then you have your spring game. Then you have what we've been going through the last few months, which is your official visit. And then here we are. We're back in July. And so there's not a day off, right? And these guys get compensated. Well, I understand it, but it would be nice for all of us, I think, for a little more, structure. And again, so the point of it is this tampering. It's been a point of conversation. And I love that Coach Prime kind of comes out and just says how he's feeling. He said it as well during the coaches panel of like, I'll say it. We're sick of it. And Maguire's right there, who's been, kind of, I would say, the front runner of spending the most money. But look, if you're going to allow somebody to do it, you're going to do it. And I don't think it's necessarily spending the money, but it is, because that's what Coach Prime also called for, was equality, right? Bumpers, more of a similarity to the NFL game, where there is a salary cap. I've been clamoring for this. I'm all for these kids getting paid. I'm all for them signing massive NIL contracts and doing all those great things. But we want some consistency amongst the league. Right? We want to be able to understand why someone's going a certain place and having a healthy battle. I think there's always going to be a little bit of an edge, and I think that's where, your resources and how you choose to invest into your program and choose to invest in your coaches that surrounding you, that's the advantage. That should be your upper hand. Not who can just go and drop $100 million on our roster while another school just is never going to have that ability to do that. Like, that's just not fun to watch. We see it in baseball. I think baseball's lost a little bit of its luster because of that. When you got one team spending $1.4 billion and the fifth place team is spending $300 million. Like, it's not even close. That's legitimate. That's not me just making numbers up. And again, that's baseball. But that's where you're kind of headed. I mean, Will we ever get those exact numbers from college football? That part I don't know. But that is where it could easily go if things aren't organized. Now, that was the biggest thing, I would say, the takeaway from Big 12 Media Days, and I'm sure it'll be across the board for all of these media days, is just more consistency with NIL. And it is funny because all these coaches are going to be clamoring for consistency, clamoring for non-tampering, clamoring for these kids getting compensated properly, but being able to keep them locked in, while at the same time having to turn back around and go home and do all those said things. They're going to have to tamper. They're going to have to do those things because that's how you survive in this league, that's the funny part. Is like they're telling on themselves, saying, please fix this. We're sick of doing it, but we have to do it to maintain any kind of success in this league. Like that is just a matter of a fact right now, which is hilarious to think about. So that was a big thing. And something else they said too that I really agree with is just the parity in the league. That was a big word that was thrown around all week, was the parity of the Big 12. How the Big 12 from top to bottom is they believe one of the best leagues in college football. And when you really think about it, because of how open it was last year, how open it's going to be going into this year, yeah, there's a lot of guys and a lot of teams that are going to be competitive that from week in and week out, it's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be a fun one to watch. And I got to tell you, Big 12 was one of my favorite conferences to watch last year because of that exact reason. Now, the commission definitely also said too, we still need some 2 or 3 teams to really kind of step up and take over that leadership role and kind of be what you have with Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State and the Big Ten and Georgia and Bama and LSU and others in the SEC that really carry the brand, right? You need someone like that to step up in the Big 12. And I think that'll be interesting to see how this thing unfolds. Texas Tech is doing all the right things on paper thus far to become that. We'll see if it translates onto the football field, but it will be a fun one to watch. But great week thus far. A lot of great conversations. A lot of great things from Coach Prime. He talked very positively about this team. Well, of course he did. I know. But I love some of the points that he said. We'll have a whole other video breaking that down. There's a lot of information that I want to go over that. How he spoke about possible coaching changes as well. Gonna be a lot of great information. How do you catch that? Turn the bell on, smash the like button, subscribe, and you'll be ready to rock roll. I want to hear from you, though. Let me know how you're feeling about everything that we just went over, right? All the things that we discussed, the NIL, I'm sure we all kind of feel the same way. That's, I think, the biggest thing for me is that we've all been clamoring for this to have some structure. The coaches, they are saying this loud and clear. And look, they're even saying, like, this isn't about us. This is for the players. It may appear to be about us. I think Coach Gundy was saying this, about us, but this is for the betterment of the football players. And I have to agree with them. They need structure. They need some accountability. Everybody needs it to be able to grow and to mature properly versus just kind of this wild westness. They don't know who to believe, who to trust. Coach Prime even said it too. I loved it when he said this. He goes, look, the problem is right now you've got their mom, their aunties, their homeboys is what he said, their friends, agencies. Like, you don't know who's representing them. So you'll have a full-blown conversation with this kid and then someone else shows up the next day and goes, yeah, we're not going to do that. And it's like, what are we doing here? There is zero consistency right now. And again, when you've got something that's being built, it's a new business essentially. You're going to have peaks and valleys and a little bit of gaps and holes in the situation. And right now, it appears that that's where we're at. But all in all, again, a lot of great stuff, a lot of great insight into the Big 12. Very fun. That early college football buzz has me fired up if you can't tell. I loved hearing these coaches talk all week. But we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace and love, baby.